get my 6. Still sporting the beard. My beautiful bride, Dearly, aka Giggly Girl, is demanding that I shave, but I kind of want to let it go a little longer to see how it turns out. So we went into town today. We had been on lockdown here at the house for more than 10 days now after having tested positive and whatnot. My wife and I both are symptom-free now. I ran again this morning, 3 miles, no problems. So we're getting back into the swing of life. And people have asked about our son. He had COVID when they were in the Philippines this summer, and they actually had to stay in quarantine in Manila for 2 weeks, and they ended up getting stuck in the Philippines for a couple weeks longer before coming home because of that. This time around, he was fine. He didn't have no symptoms. He didn't get it. So his health has been A-okay this whole time. But he was having cabin fever with us because we've all been stuck here. You know, had some family coming down for Christmas. Well, in between Christmas and New Year, we told him not to come. But one of my sisters, she's actually in the mental health care industry, and she says something frequently that I'm going to talk about here for a little bit because of something that happened today. So we decided we would go to see a movie. We wore masks, took all the precautions, saw everybody else, most people out wearing masks too. And we went to see a movie called American Underdog, the Kurt Warner story. Many of you are familiar with Kurt Warner. He was the Super Bowl MVP winning quarterback for the St. Louis Rams in the year 2000. I'm really glad they made a movie about that guy and what he went through, because in my humble opinion, his story is the best NFL quarterback story ever. Talk about a little bit here without giving any spoilers away about the movie. But now, before we went into the movies, there in Charlottesville, we went into a Trader Joe's place to get some cough drops. Not that, you know, we were coughing. I've not been coughing, but just to have them. We kind of went through all of our supplies with this bout with the virus here. And there was a woman helping us. She was probably 50-ish, Caucasian woman. Very pleasant, very nice, very knowledgeable. And she says to my wife, she says, are you Filipina? And my wife said, yeah. And she says, okay, I kind of thought so. She says, I'm not, you know, being nosy, and I'm not trying to, you know, be inappropriate. She said, she said that her father, she was from Hawaii originally, and after her mother died when she was only 12, and her father ended up getting remarried a couple years later, and he married a woman from Manila, the Philippines, a Filipino lady. This is now this woman's stepmother. She's still alive. She was telling us she has a wonderful relationship with her stepmother, and she has gotten to go to the Philippines a few times, and she enjoys it there. And so we were just having a very wonderful conversation. And the lady told us, she said that there was a much younger lady that worked there at the store. She was a cashier, and that she was Filipina, and that they considered each other to be each other's cousins because of that connection. And I thought, oh, that's really neat. That's, you know, it was very pleasant. It was nice to be back out there and kind of be around other people. And like I said, we were masked up. This woman working in the store was masked up. So, we get our cough drops, and I go to get into one of the lines to pay, and my son Daniel was with me, and my wife, Dearly, she's looking at some other stuff, just browsing around. Turns out, the cashier, the line that we had gotten into, was this young Filipina lady that the other lady had told us about. She even told us her name, and I looked, and sure enough, her name was on her name tag. So I get to the register, and I say, "Kamusta?" which means, how are you, in Tagalog. And she looks at me, she goes, "I'm sorry, I have no idea what you're saying." And I said, "Oh, hindi ko alam Tagalog ka?" which means, "Oh, you don't understand Tagalog?" And she looks at me, she goes, "So So is your thing to like approach Asian people and try to guess with which ethnicity they are? I'm assuming you're speaking to me in some language that I don't understand. And I said, ma'am, I'm not assuming anything about you at all. She goes, well, obviously you are. Obviously, you're trying to guess which ethnicity I am. What language are you speaking? Is that Tagalog? Are you trying to guess that I'm Filipina? I said, well, ma'am, I said, number one, it is Tagalog. Number two, I'm not guessing anything about you. I'm making no assumptions about you whatsoever. And then she starts to prattle on about something else. And I said, ma'am, because they play this game in Charlottesville. They probably play it everywhere, but it's very popular to play in Charlottesville. It's called I'm Offended First. People will act as if they're offended by whatever you say. It doesn't matter. And it's not offensive. It's just they want to put you on your heels and get you to start, and apologizing. And I said, ma'am, I just spoke with your coworker over there. My wife is Filipina. Here she comes now, and here Dearly was coming to join us. And of course, this girl's face was like, I said, your coworker told us that you were Filipina, you were from the Philippines, and that you guys call each other cousins because of this, because she explained very, very politely to us that her mother was from Manila, a wonderful Filipina lady. And so I was just trying to be pleasant. I was trying to be polite. I certainly wasn't trying to offend you. And she never said another word. She handed me my receipt. She refused to look me in the eye. She certainly wouldn't look my wife in the eye. So we go outside, and I told my wife, I said, Drats, I've done it again. I just, small talk and being friendly with strangers, and I got suckered into playing the I'm offended game. And I brought her up to speed on what had happened. And Dearly, she's got a much better attitude about this stuff than me. She says, forget her, she's crazy. Said she probably watches too much news, and she's seeing, and this is true, there are a lot of hate crimes being committed against Asian people in this country, and that's terrible, that's disgusting, it's got to stop. But I certainly was not doing any sort of stereotyping or anything. Okay, I've told you the story. No further explanation needs, no further explaining needs to be done. And there's Miss Cleopatra. But here's my point. This is why I'm telling you this story, because we then went to see the movie American Underdog, the Kurt Warner story. Kurt Warner, as you know, he was never drafted. He went to a very small college, University of Northern Iowa, I believe it is. Yeah, University of Northern Iowa, the Panthers. One single A school. Nobody, probably, if you're not from Iowa, probably never even heard of them. Didn't get drafted. Ended up getting a shot to play for the Packers. Didn't even make it a day. I think he made it 2 days. Made it 2 days before they cut him. Ended up stocking shelves in a grocery store, probably for minimum wage. He had a girlfriend who he would go on to marry, and she was divorced with 2 kids, and he was helping take care of these kids. She was going to school to be a nurse. They were broke. She's crazy. She's jumping around or something. What's she doing? So anyway, where's she going? She's hunting. She's always getting mice and stuff. Here's the point. He never gave up. He ended up playing in arena football before he got to go to St. Louis. But the biggest thing, and this is where my sister I mentioned earlier comes in here. She has a saying, and my sister lived through an abusive marriage, and she told me that her biggest mistake that she made for so long was that she allowed herself to be a victim. Now, she was a victim. She was a victim of domestic abuse. But she said she got into playing the role of a victim to where she viewed that as if that were her place. And so she stayed in an abusive marriage much longer than she should have. And it wasn't until she stopped viewing herself as a victim that she allowed herself to stop being a victim And she took control of her life, and she got out of that relationship. And now, you know, she's got another husband now that, you know, to my knowledge is not abusive, and she seems to be very happy, and she's got some wonderful kids. Kurt Warner finally made it to the show, as they call it in the football world. He finally won a Super Bowl. He did all these amazing things that most people would have said. I mean, the name of the movie is American Underdog. He really was not expected to do it because he didn't allow himself to be a victim. He didn't say, well, gosh, I didn't get drafted. Well, gosh, you know, I just went to a little one single A school. Well, gee, the Packers cut me after 2 days. It's their fault I'm not in the NFL. It's their fault I'll never win a Super Bowl. He never said those things. And I have an ability to like see things that are not really related, but are. And the conversation I had with this young lady at the Trader Joe's, before going into that movie really fits in well with this concept of, victimization. It was obvious that that young lady, maybe not all the time, maybe not always, maybe not every day, maybe she was just having a bad day. But at that one moment in time, she wanted to be a victim. She wanted to be the victim of someone who she felt was stereotyping her for some way. I was not stereotyping in any way. I had been armed with facts by her friend and coworker, and I was simply going out of my way to be kind and be kind of pleasant with her, and very limited small talk because I'm just passing through her line. If Kurt Warner would have allowed himself to see himself as a victim because he was never drafted, because he got cut by the Green Bay Packers after 2 days, because he's found himself stuck in Arena League football, he would have never made it to the NFL. He would have never won a Super Bowl. He would have never been, he was the NFL's MVP, Super Bowl MVP. He would have never done any of those things. You know why? Because the reality he would have created for himself would have been one of a victim. Victims, there are such things as victims, okay? We all, at some point in our lives, have been a victim of something. The thing is, we've got to be very careful about remaining victims. You don't want to get into that victim mindset because you will live a victim lifestyle. My sister, in the story that I shared with you, that I know she wouldn't mind me, you know, repeating here, she lived for many years as a victim because she chose to fulfill the victim role. She finally got out of it. You know, we know someone that lives out this way that we use as an example for our son, like how not to live, how not to think. And it's somebody with a victim mindset. He claims to be in business, but he doesn't do any business. And it's always somebody else's fault. Somebody's expectations for what they wanted were just too big, they couldn't be met. The time frame wasn't long enough. If this guy doesn't have any stories about any wins, there's no W's, no checks in the W column, because he goes out of his way to figure out why things won't work. And so therefore, of course, they're not going to work out. He doesn't even make an attempt. But then that allows him to be a victim of circumstance. Okay. This guy approaches me with this, hey, I'll give you, this is what I want you to do, for my business. This $10,000 payday here for you, but it's got to be done by this date. Oh, no, can't do it. And, you can't win like that. You're just not going to win like that. So, reality, it's so strange. You can have 3 different people in one spot in the exact same situation, the exact same scenario, and all 3 of those people will see the situation, the scenario, that reality they are in entirely different. And it's because of the filter through which they view and see the world. You know, how ironic is it? This girl was working in a grocery store, as was Kurt Warner. And there's certainly nothing wrong with working in a grocery store. Nothing wrong whatsoever. That's a good job, and any job, like Kurt Warner, he did it because that's all he could do at the time, and he had responsibilities, and he was a man, and he manned up. So props to anybody who works anywhere. My point is this. The difference between Kurt Warner leaving that grocery store to go on to win a Super Bowl ring and the girl that I met today, and I don't know anything about her other than the, you know, slight rash she gave me in 90 seconds worth of conversation there, playing the I'm Offended game. It's so popular in my town. That's what Dearly said. That's why when we go out, she just doesn't even talk to people anymore. But I don't want to end up that way. I want to be me, because for every one person that plays the I'm Offended game, there's 9 that don't. You know, they're just out there. You never know who they're going to be. But attitude determines altitude. Kurt Warner, when he was in the grocery store, when he was stocking those shelves, he never saw himself as a victim. He saw himself as a winner, and he saw his situation at the time as being temporary, not permanent. And of course, he went on to do great things. Spent 12 seasons in the NFL, married the woman again. They have like 7 kids now. He's had an amazing life. And he was inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame in 2017. So if we choose to view ourselves as victims, guess what? We will be. We will be, and we will live a life of victimhood. And you're not going to get any checks in the win column. Hey, you'll always have an excuse. You'll get a lot of checks in the excuse column. But like I tell my son, my first sergeant back in the Army, he used to say, you know, what's the maximum effective range of an M4? I don't know, 300 meters. I can't remember. What's the maximum effective range of a 50 cal? Hey, if you can see it, you can kill it. That's the maximum effective range of a 50 cal. And then he would say, what's the maximum effective range of an excuse? 0 meters. So again, just be kind to everybody. It's okay to be pleasant. You know, stop hating on everybody and hoping that people who think differently than you or whatever ends up with bad things happening to them. Life's too short. Life's too short. And I'm not going to keep the cashier today. I'm not going to let the cashier that I dealt with today keep me from being polite, friendly, and cordial to the cashier that I might see tomorrow or that I might see next week. It's getting dark on me, and it looks like Cleopatra's staring at something in the woods. So I'm getting out of here. See y'all for more next time.